Boom, 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 boom. A side, B side. What side are you on?
All right. Well, it is another episode of A Side B Side. How you doing, Adam?
I am doing very well, Brooke. How are you?
Good, good, good. So, did you catch any movies or shows this week? Okay, first let me tell you, because you mentioned Big Sky a few weeks ago, and then my mom had mentioned Big Sky a few weeks ago, and I was like, "What is that about? Aliens?" I guess it's because it sounds like it would be like about aliens, but it's just I guess that's what they call Montana.
Yeah, it's just a crime show in Montana.
And man, it's good. Like it is. I am flying through these episodes. I don't know. I messaged you earlier and I was like, "Are you all caught up?" And you're like, "No," but I don't know where you are. But whoa, wherever you are, like every episode is like, okay, dang.
Yeah, I watched the first two when they first came out, and then since then I've watched the third one. But I think
Oh,
that's
I am
just
so far past
yeah,
you.
you are. But I mean, I remember watching it and thinking like, this is totally down Brooke's alley.
It so
This is
is.
yeah, this is like a Brooke show, not an Adam show, because one, there's no aliens.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it was really well done, and there's a lot of good people in it. And of course, yeah, I think way back when it first came out, I did a spoiler on the whole Ryan Phillippe part.
Yeah, don't do it again.
Yeah, I won't do that again.
Yeah.
There is a website, a fandom website uh, devoted to it. So if you really want to get into the deep dive, bigsky.fandom.com.
Is it going to spoil things for me?
It can if you look at it,
Okay.
because you can look at it. You can look further into the episodes.
Oh.
But it's got like detailed episode breakdowns and stuff. So I was just pulling up because I'm trying to remember who else is in it.
So it's got I don't remember her name, but she's Largatha on Vikings.
Yeah, that's right. So and I love how the website just has the characters, like you have to like search for like the actor's name.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine Winnick.
Yeah, that's it.
That's just trying to remember
That's
her
it.
name. She's really good. And of course Ryan Phillippe, and then like several character actors where you're like, oh, that guy.
There's one that I can't believe that I can't believe you haven't done actually.
Yeah.
Big Rick. Big Rick, the Montana State Trooper.
Yeah, he's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
Plays Legarsky, and then he was on the Drew Carey show and all sorts of shows.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised you haven't done him.
Well, maybe he'll be in the future. He's not today. So
I was going to say, or maybe he'll be today.
Yeah. No, that'd be the fastest research ever.
I'm glad that I finally jumped into that one because, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I am too, because it's like I said, I'd kind of fallen off on watching it, and then you started talking about it, so then I like put it back on my list. I've been caught up on Loki and the Star Wars Bad Batch cartoon, and there's a new season of Hell's Kitchen, which working in the service industry, I have to watch almost as like a requirement. Yeah, I had a nightmare that Gordon Ramsay came into our restaurant and was running like the expo line and just screaming at all special orders we get, which was pretty great, but also terrifying.
Yeah, I can imagine because I've seen his TikToks. He's hilarious on his TikToks.
And like the funny thing is, like in all the American shows, all they show him is him mad, but then like on his British versions, he's like this, Family Guy dad who like on the Kitchen Nightmare show is like half the time is like tearing people down to build them back up and like helping them with their business. Like he's much more dynamic a character in the British version of his shows, and in the US version, he's just scary guy.
Yeah. Oh, so I have another show that you might actually like.
Ooh.
I mean, it is kind of a police show, but uh, it's you like the British police shows, so I think you would like
I do,
this.
yeah.
It's called Line of Duty, and I'm kind of getting the impression that each season is like a different story, but based in the same police department.
Yeah, seems like a very British style thing to do, where like the story, like the series will have not the same characters every year. Like The Office didn't necessarily last forever because it was just about Jim and Pam, or as it did in America.
Right. So it's called Line of Duty. And did you watch Walking Dead?
I do not. For a while there, I read the comics, and then I was following it through recaps, but I can't do the visuals.
Okay. So there is a character on Walking Dead. He was also on Human Target, but he's kind of like the focus of this season. He's an actor that I really like.
Was he the Human Target guy?
No. He was like one of his nemesis.
Oh, okay.
But he was on multiple episodes.
Gotcha.
So it's actually really good. So that's one for you to check out. Line of Duty. It's on Hulu.
Okay. I need to add more things to my list of things to watch. Just added Big Sky back on, so. But it is awesome when you have somebody else who's watching, the same show that you could talk to about that. Like, I think I mentioned it last week, my friend who's rewatching the MCU movies or watching them for the first time in order. And it's just neat to kind of re-experience all that again.
Yeah, because like last night, something happened because my mom has finished Big Sky, and then I was watching it last night, and then something happened, and I called her and I go, "Oh my goodness, blah 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 happened," and she just starts cracking up. So anyway, all right. So I interrupted you. Sorry. What have you been watching this week?
Oh yeah, just Loki and Star Wars: The Bad Batch, and then Kitchen Nightmares or Hell's Kitchen new season, and then a lot of Euro soccer. So,
oh yeah, it is soccer time, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's nice because it happens during the day. So on my day shifts when I'm bartending, I've got soccer on the TV, and not many people are coming in and saying there's anything else to watch. So it's cool.
Okay, soccer. So there was this, I did this on my show the other day. Do you remember a couple years ago, there was the little audio and some people heard Laurel, some people heard Yanny. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, apparently there's a new version of that. And like people were hearing like Bart Simpson pirate ship, or, they're hearing a bunch of things, but apparently it's a soccer chant from the Derbyshire soccer club that they yell out, "That is embarrassing."
Oh, really?
But because of the accent, I guess it was just people were hearing different things, but they're going, "That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing." But people were hearing like some off the wall stuff. So it's pretty funny.
And you get a group of people chanting, and everyone's just like, they're not completely in unison, but they're in just enough unison. But still, it's like, wait a second. I can see how it'd be easy to hear different things.
Yeah, I mean, and it was just really funny some of the stuff that they were hearing, but they did confirm that they're saying that is embarrassing.
That is embarrassing. Well, that's ironic that so many people would mishear that's embarrassing. How embarrassing.
How embarrassing. Real fast before we get started, because this has absolutely nothing to do with crime or TV shows, but I am huge on TikTok. I love TikTok. Mm-hmm. And I just thought this was really cool. So I remember scrolling and seeing this video, and this girl was kind of making fun of country songs. And she's like, all country songs, I don't understand how people like country songs. All they are beer, truck, a girl in tight jeans or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So a guy, his name is George Birch. He used to be in a group called Waterloo Revival, but they recently broke up. Well, he was scrolling and saw this, and he was like, I mean, she's right, but... And so he kind of made a song, and it's like a love song, and he's talking to like the girl that, kind of is gone, and he's like, if you want to come back to me, it's not all beer, truck, girl in tight jeans. I'll be sitting here waiting for you in the country. It's actually a really cute, like, what he did. And he gave this girl songwriting credit, which I think is the coolest part of that whole thing.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's neat when stuff like kind of transcends like that. I mean, somebody, obviously it's a great opportunity for that guy and also for the girl to take advantage of a, viral moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Marvel put out the hour-long Zemo dancing supercut.
Right.
It's like, the best part is, somebody did that just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, all right, just George, that's great. You just keep that. And then when it became a big deal, George is like, I told you guys, it's going to be huge.
Right. See, you didn't listen to me. All right. So this is episode 40. Are you ready?
I am ready. Yes. And
it's all on you.
In honor of Aurora, who joined us a couple episodes ago. And when I say joined us, I mean joined Brooke, because I was at work during the recording. But it was relayed to me, and then I listened to it later, that we have not really done, and by we, I mean me, that guy from that show in quite a while. I think maybe the last one was Warwick Davis, and I don't even know how long ago
that's been a while ago.
Yeah, it was like maybe November, which is not recent. So I decided to look into my vast treasure trove of faces that I remember, but people who I don't really know. And after last week's, one of my favorites from Ghostbusters popped up. Of course, last week we talked about the cartoon Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters, and the other Ghostbusters. But the movie Ghostbusters from 1984 has a character who I absolutely love to hate. And I have seen the actor from that movie who plays the character in a lot of other movies, also in roles that I love to hate.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done a couple, that guy from that thing, about actors who I love and have really enjoyed their character roles. This is the first one about one that every time I see him, I know I'm going to hate whatever character he's going to play. And he does it so incredibly well. So this guy has routinely played characters that the audience, and not just me, have loved to hate. From the overzealous EPA agent, as I mentioned in Ghostbusters, who inadvertently unleashes the horde of ghosts that sets up the climactic point of the movie, to the annoying and overreaching news anchor who inadvertently puts others in danger in Die Hard and Die Hard 2. He also got to play two very arrogant scientists, one as a smarmy professor in the criminally underrated Real Genius, and another as a scientist locked in a biodome with Pauly Shore and William Baldwin in the, I don't know why I've seen this movie 100 times, Biodome. And his name is William Atherton. He was born in Orange County, Connecticut, to his parents, Myrtle and Robert. He went on to study acting at the drama school at Carnegie Tech and matriculated on to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh and graduated in 1969. As was more common then, any aspiring actor then headed to New York. He began his career on Broadway, had worked in a couple Broadway productions, got familiar with gosh darn it, I'm forgetting his name and I closed the tab. Hold on a second. George C. Scott was someone he worked with, and George C. Scott, who I always refer to as General Moldy Eyebrows for his very strange costume in Patton, going all the way back to grade school, when for some reason my friends and I decided to watch Patton, which is just totally made for 12-year-old boys, except not. So we focused on his eyebrows the whole time. But he got, William Atherton, his first couple of film roles, which were smaller, and then led to his first starring role. And I did not know the background of William Atherton, much other than the roles that I had seen him in Ghostbusters and Die Hard 2, and Biodome. But his first starring role was in a movie that was also Steven Spielberg's first major film. It was called The Sugarland Express. And Atherton played a part of a married couple. His name was Clovis, and he was married to Lou Jean Poplin, who was played by a very young Goldie Hawn. And the movie is a bit of it could be a spiritual successor to Bonnie and Clyde, as it's this couple on the run, and a bit of a precursor to both, Raising Arizona and Natural Born Killers. It's a crime story. It's got this sort of mismatched couple that are trying to do something that they're never going to get away with, and it has this sort of impending doom throughout the entire movie. Lou Jean, played by Goldie Hawn, goes to jail to visit her husband, who is 4 months from getting released, and she tells him that their son has been taken to foster care and he needs to help her get him out. So he breaks out of jail, goes with her to kidnap their infant son from foster care, ends up hijacking a state patrol car and a state patrolman. As you can see, this just progressively gets worse and worse. Atherton received quite a bit of critical acclaim for his performance. However, the studio felt it was just a little too heavy of a movie and wasn't going to be successful. So in one of those classic Hollywood things, they moved it from its original release date, and then they released it and didn't really support it and didn't do much advertising or marketing for it. And the movie really didn't make any money. It was a bit of a critical acclaim. It's much more in line for a Spielberg film than the uncomfortability of something like Jaws or Empire of the Sun. It is certainly not like a blockbuster like your E.T. or Indiana Jones, or even, later like a Minority Report. And spoiler alert, the Sugarland Express does not have a happy ending like many Spielberg films. It carries a feeling of unease and dread through the entire film. It seems to follow Atherton's character Clovis, as he is sort of this bumbling guy who's convinced to do things by his wife and then keeps agreeing to do them, but has this feeling of this isn't going to work out eventually. That dread and unease kind of follows his character around, just like the cops are chasing the couple after they steal the patrol car. For more in-depth analysis of the movie, because it is quite a character piece and is often considered probably Atherton's best work. That and the following film, The Day of the Locust, which was his second major role. Both were very well received critically. Day of the Locust even was filmed or premiered at Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival, and he was actually receiving more questions about the Sugarland Express movie than he was about The Day of the Locust, because so many people had never gotten to talk to him about it because it wasn't given any press. Those two very heavy films. And if you're looking for more in-depth analysis, I highly recommend a YouTube video from user Adam Zanzie, so ADAMZANZIE. It's called Analyzing Performance William Atherton in the Sugarland Express. It does a great job of breaking things down scene by scene and really kind of following the character arc. And if you want more, definitely check it out. So Sugarland Express was not a commercial hit. The Day of the Locust wasn't much of a commercial hit either. And at some point, Atherton, as he's going through making these movies, decided, you know what, maybe I should try out a movie that makes money and is a bit more of a hit and see if I like that. That led to a change in focus for the types of roles that he was pursuing, and kind of put him into, I guess you could say, stereotyped or typecast or pigeonholed into one type of role. And namely, from that point on, William Atherton has played a-holes, and some of the most enjoyable and to hate a-holes in the last 35 years. First was his Walter Peck, who is an EPA official, as I mentioned, in Ghostbusters. He then went on to be in Die Hard in 1988 and Die Hard 2 in 1990. In between, he was in Real Genius, which is 1985, as Dr. Noah Faulkner, which is probably one of my favorite roles, probably my favorite role of his ever, where he is the villain professor who is using genius students to further his financial gain at a college in the mid 80s. It is at times very stuck in the 80s in terms of some of the visuals, and it did use quite a few special effects at the time, which now look relatively cheap, but were fairly cutting edge. However, it holds up pretty well. In fact, Atherton even agreed in a 2010 interview with avclub.com. He said, the movie didn't do terribly well. It didn't make a ton of money, but it became a sleeper instantly in terms of DVD and VHS and festivals. And now anywhere I go in the world, that movie is as popular as Ghostbusters or Die Hard. It's amazing, and it's a constant following in college kids especially. It isn't something that seems to age. And I highly agree with that. Real Genius is still something that if I see it on, I'm going to watch it. And some days it's on that rotation of movies that I will play when I'm in a bad mood, because the adventures of Chris Knight, played by a very young Val Kilmer, always make me smile. And William Atherton is a wonderful foil. That led to his 35 years of playing characters that you love to hate. He plays basically variations on that self-righteous jerk that unleashes ghosts and Ghostbusters for the last 35 years. And that's led to appearing in episodes of nearly every TV cop show or legal drama that you can think of. He's one of those guys that when you see him in the episode, like it's a Law and Order or Boston Legal or even Murder, She Wrote, you're like, okay, I recognize this guy, which means that he's either going to be the person who gets killed or he's going to be the murderer somehow, or he's going to be the victim. Okay, 10 minutes in, I'm like, this guy's factoring into the plot. He's going to be around for the whole 45 minutes. So he's appeared in multiple episodes. He actually played 3 different characters in episodes of Murder, She Wrote, which is one of the things I love about 80s TV. It was like, oh, we worked with you before. Cool. Now we'll work with you again as a totally different character, and you'll wear a different sport jacket, and no one will notice. And we were all just cool with it. Like, I don't think that would fly on any modern TV show with the same actor playing obvious roles that were different. He was also in the oft-forgotten Don Johnson, Cheech Marin cop drama Nash Bridges.
Oh, yeah.
He was on episodes of legal dramas The Practice, Law and Order, and Boston Legal. He had a run where he was just doing TV shows that had one-word titles like Life, Lost, and Monk. He even appeared on 2 Sci-Fi Channel science fiction shows. One, Defiance, which in my opinion was a series that was gone too soon, and in an episode of Stargate SG-1, which in my opinion is a series that maybe hung around for too long. He has appeared in over 30 feature films in co-starring roles. We already mentioned Ghostbusters, Die Hard 2, Real Genius, Biodome, which has an excellent soundtrack. If you go watch Biodome, you can do so for the soundtrack alone, because the music in that movie is probably my 3rd favorite character. He's also was in 1991's Oscar, 1997's Hoodlum, No Mercy in 1986, The Pelican Brief, because he can always play a lawyer, in 1993. He played Tom Cruise's angered boss in the eminently forgettable The Last Samurai from 2003. So he has been working nonstop for about 40 years. He has trailed off here in his late 60s and early 70s, where he's not doing quite as much. His personal website, williamatherton.com, does not seem to have really been updated since 2019. There's nothing that is super obvious in his IMDb that's coming up. So as you get older, it seems not to be working nearly as much. But if you would like to go on a William Atherton binge watch, There are some ways to catch most of these movies on streaming if you don't have them on DVD. If you're someone like me and you have them all on DVD, you can just pop any of those in. Ghostbusters right now is available on Fubo TV. Die Hard, the original, is available for Hulu subscribers. Die Hard 2, however, is only available to rent on Apple TV. Real Genius, which I mean is definitely worth buying on Amazon for $10, is available to stream for free for Star subscribers. And the intense and heartbreaking performance of William Atherton as Clovis Popland in his first starring role in Steven Spielberg's The Sugarland Express is available to rent on virtually any rental service, including Apple TV, Amazon, Google, and even YouTube. And I almost forgot it existed, but it's on Redbox too to stream. So that is today's That Guy from That Show. The a-hole that we all love to hate, William Atherton.
Okay, so I'm looking at his IMDb page, and did you know he actually performed as well? He apparently sang a song, When My Blue Moon Turns Gold, in The Sugarland Express, and then in The Great Gatsby, he performed What I'll Do.
Yeah, he was a Broadway guy, so he's done musicals as well. There was, I think it was the musical Gigi, which I'm not super familiar with, was a recent one, and there was another one in the early 2000s that he did. But the guy definitely was a classically trained, Broadway actor who just kind of became the a-hole for the paycheck.
Whatever works, right? The formula.
Hey, honestly, if somebody wants to pay me handsomely to be a film actor that everybody hates, my contact info is available on our website.
And you also have an IMDb page.
I do. It's got so many credits on it. And I keep, every couple of years, so I was an extra in Sugar and Spice when it was filmed here in Minneapolis. And Sugar and Spice, which was the movie that was made by the director of Drop Dead Gorgeous, after Drop Dead Gorgeous, and it involves four high school cheerleaders who rob a bank branch at a grocery store, and I got to be an extra in it. And every couple of years I will try to get added on IMDb that I was an extra to give myself another credit. And every couple of years, IMDb sends me an email saying it's rejected. So
no, why? Yeah. I wonder why they reject it.
Well, because it's uncredited, and like anybody could just put their put ad credits on there. So, but it was cool. I got to meet the guy who played Cyclops, James Marsden, and didn't tell him that I thought he was horrible. So
please don't. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, I was a comic nerd at the time. I was holding a bad script against it.
All right, so that's the A side.
That is the A side, and go check out the works of William Atherton.
All right. So it's my side. It's the B side. Hey, can you do that for a theme for me? It's my side. It's the B side.
I think you just did. That sounded good. It was definitely better than the Ghostbusters theme that we heard last week.
Right.
It didn't sound like two guys drunk singing it.
Ooh, that one was real bad. That was real bad. All right. So this week we are talking about Donald Henry Gaskins, and he has been dubbed the meanest man in America.
That's saying something.
Right. So Donald Henry Parrott Jr., aka Donald Henry Pee Wee Gaskins Jr., was born in Florence County, South Carolina, to Eula Parrott, an unwed single mother, on March 13th of 1933. Pee Wee was the last in the line of 6 children. Parrott, his mom's nickname, had a series of different boyfriends come and go during Pee Wee, aka Junior Parrott's childhood. Yeah.
It's starting to sound like a cartoon.
It's funny, like the nicknames that go through families.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that she probably got I don't know why she got the nickname. I know like nicknames in my family, they're like based on like a size thing or like a
Yeah.
physical feature. So I don't know.
I would assume that she just really liked crackers.
Maybe, or she
Yeah.
repeated everything you said.
Could be. She could repeat everything you say.
So, like we have heard many, many times before, many of those boyfriends that would come and go were abusive to Pee Wee and his mom, did nothing to prevent it. I'm pretty sure it's easy to guess the nickname. Like we talked about, nicknames come from physical features. He was really, really small for his age. So he gained the nickname Pee Wee really early on. As an adult, he stood between 5'4" and 5'5" and weighed 130 pounds. So not a big guy. I'm 5'5". Well, I'm teetering right on 5'5". Both my kids are taller than me. So for a guy, he was pretty little.
Yeah. I feel little and I'm 5'9".
Right? Because nowadays, if you're not 6 foot.
No, that's the thing. Like there are like certain apps you can't even get on. It's just like must be this tall to get on the ride.
It's really funny because like on a lot of like these dating apps these days, it seems like guys are instantly like, I'm this height because that seems to be important. So I guess that is important. I guess people ask.
Yeah, some people do. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, like I've got stilts, so it's cool. I've got a trench coat, platforms.
So when Pee Wee was 1, he accidentally drank a bottle of kerosene, causing him to have intermittent convulsions, which lasted until about the age of 3. At the age of 11, Pee Wee quit school and began working at a garage where he met Danny and Marsh. The boys called themselves the Trouble Trio. And, well, they began living up to their name, getting into trouble, burglarizing homes, picking up prostitutes. Now, remember, he was 11 when they met. They're picking up prostitutes and they were sexually assaulting other young boys, threatening them so that they wouldn't tell adults or authorities. The Trouble Trio broke up after they were caught for Now, I know it's a true crime podcast and we always say it's graphic, but this is graphic in a different way. So the Trouble Trio was broken up after they were caught for the gang rape of Marsh's little sister. The boys were beaten severely by all of the parents. Danny and Marsh left the area shortly after, leaving Pee Wee to continue his crime sprees alone. In 1946, there was a home burglary. During a home burglary, a girl who knew him interrupted his crime. She attacked him with an axe, or she attempted to attack him with an axe. He managed to get it away from her, and he struck her with it in the head and the arm. He left her for dead after attacking her, and he fled the scene. Fortunately, she survived the attack. She was able to name her attacker. Donald was arrested. He was tried and convicted for assault with a deadly weapon and intent to kill. On June 18th of 1946, he was sent to South Carolina Industrial School for Boys, and he was supposed to be there until he turned 18. It was during this trial that Pee Wee learned for the very first time that his actual given name was Donald when it was read aloud in court. See, Donald, or Pee Wee, never knew who his father was, and his mother never really took much interest in him. She was more interested, in her boyfriends and stuff, which is proven by the fact he didn't know his birth name.
That's rough.
He's like 13 years old by this time, and he didn't know his name was Donald. At the reform school, due to his small nature, he was attacked, sadly, and he was gang raped by 20 of his peers. So to avoid further attacks, he agreed to protection from someone they all called Boss Boy, all the while trying to escape from the school. His multiple escape attempts were unsuccessful, which caused him to get beaten by guards and continually exploited sexually by Boss Boy. Pee Wee finally gets lucky on one of his breakout attempts, and he is able to escape, and he joins a traveling circus.
Of course.
While in the traveling circus, he marries. So Pee-wee, 13, now has a child bride of 13. After getting married, he decides to turn himself back in. I guess married life was way too stressful for a 13-year-old. Like, nah, I'm good. I'll go back. I'll go back to jail. I'll go back to reform school.
Wow.
So Junior Parrott then returns to the reform school to finish out his sentence. He is released on his 18th birthday, March 13th, 1951. So then Pee-wee gets a job in a tobacco plantation where he worked until he started to get in trouble again. So Pee-wee got into the insurance fraud game. He and his partner were working with local tobacco farmers, and they would burn their farms for a fee. So rumors started circulating about his involvement in the fires, and the daughter of Pee-wee's employer confronted him and questioned him about his involvement. Well, this caused Pee-wee to panic. And in this moment of panic, he hit the girl in the head with a hammer, splitting her skull. Again, Pee-wee is arrested and convicted. This time, he receives a 5-year sentence for assault with a deadly weapon and attempted murder. Good news, obviously, from the charges, attempted murder. She did not die.
Yeah.
So this time, he's sent to the South Carolina State Penitentiary. Again, small in stature, Pee-wee found prison life to be pretty similar to reform school in that he immediately needed protection. So he was assigned to service one of the gang leaders for this said protection. Pee-wee knew his only chance was to be seen as a power man. So power men were those who had a reputation of being so brutal, so vicious that no one wants to mess with them. And I think we all hear that story, like, if you're going to prison, make sure you either do this or that, or,
Yeah.
So Pee-wee's victim was the most feared man in prison. His name was Hazel Brazel. So Pee-wee gets close to Hazel. He works his way into Hazel's group and gains his trust. He then slits his throat. Pee-wee was found guilty of manslaughter and spent 6 months in solitary confinement. So now he's a power man. His mission was accomplished, goal completed. So Pee-wee's child bride from previously files for divorce in 1955. This, for whatever reason, causes Pee-wee to freak out. Now, I'm going to remind you, this is the same child bride that he married and then turned himself in so he didn't have to be around her anymore. But for whatever reason, this divorce caused him to freak out. He escapes from prison. He steals a car. He flees to Florida. While in Florida, he joins another traveling carnival. I said circus before. I'm sorry. I meant carnival. And he marries for the second time. That marriage, while short, lasted longer than Britney Spears' 55-hour marriage to Jason Alexander in 2004.
which is the standard that all small marriages are
right.
based on.
Matter of fact, it lasted longer than Kim Kardashian and Chris Humphries, I believe, because this marriage actually lasted for 2 weeks. How long did Chris Humphries and Kim? They were like 72 hours or something like that.
I thought it was like 7 days.
Okay, maybe.
I'm gonna look it up. He's a Minnesota guy, so I should know this.
It's still longer if there were 7 days and this was 2 weeks. Okay.
72 days.
Oh, 72 days. Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's like that's not that bad.
They're old hat now.
Yeah. Like you probably like did 2-3 trips there, I guess. I don't know.
So Pee-wee found a new interest in Betty Gates, also with the carnival. She was traveling with the carnival. So he traveled with Betty to Cookeville because Betty said she needed help bailing her brother out of jail. So Pee-wee went to the jail, and he goes to the jail with bail money and a carton of cigarettes. When he went back to the hotel, well, Betty was gone, and so was his stolen car. Pee-wee then learns that, well, it wasn't in fact Betty's brother at all. Betty had bamboozled, hoodwinked him, if you will, because it was actually her husband that they were picking up.
Should have seen that one coming, Pee-wee.
They had a razor tucked inside the cigarettes that they used to cut the wires and escape. And, so when Pee-wee was distracted, that's how they got away. So police arrive at the hotel looking for the escapee and find a different escapee, Pee-wee Gaskins. Because remember, he was supposed to be in prison. He escaped.
Yes. He's on the lam because his first divorce was going through.
Right.
He had that classic, sixth life crisis. So.
So he's apprehended and he's sent back to the South Carolina State Penitentiary, where an extra 9 months were added on to his sentence for aiding the escape of a prisoner. Later, he'll be convicted of driving a stolen car across state lines, and he'll receive 3 years in federal prison in Atlanta, where he meets Frank Costello, a mafia boss. Frank calls Pee-wee Little Hatchet Man and offers him future employment. So keep that in mind.
Little Hatchet Man.
Little Hatchet Man. I'm not going to lie. That sounds like a rapper name today.
Yeah. Or like a Mumford & Sons album.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. So in 1961, he was released from prison and he returns to Florence, South Carolina, where he finds employment working in tobacco sheds.
Evidently, the carnival was not in town.
Or he didn't learn from the first round of tobacco work.
Oh, that's true.
So addicted to trouble, Pee-wee began burglarizing homes and selling off the stolen goods. He avoids capture by working with a traveling minister as his driver and assistant. He seizes the opportunity to travel to different towns and steal from different homes in the towns as they travel to preach, making him harder to track.
It's kind of brilliant.
I mean, it really kind of is. So then Pee-wee finds love and marries for the third time in 1962. But ever the horrible person he is, he's arrested for the statutory rape of a 12-year-old girl. But he escapes and he flees to North Carolina in a stolen car. In North Carolina, he meets a 17-year-old girl whom he marries. Yes, this is number 4 if you're keeping track.
Man, this guy was a fool for love.
Phew, was a fool for something. So she turns him in for statutory rape and he's sentenced to 6 years at the Columbia Penitentiary because she's only 17.
That must have gone bad quick.
Right. Yes. Because I can only imagine what kind of things he was probably doing.
As soon as the relationship didn't work, she was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm
right." Yeah. So Pee-wee was paroled in 1968 and he vowed, "I'm never going back to prison." Well, we know how that always goes.
Famous last words.
Right. So according to several different sources throughout his life, Pee-wee suffered what he called them aggravated and bothersome feelings that he said drove him to commit crimes.
Are we sure he wasn't a rapper?
So in 1969, he found himself some relief, if you will, when he picked up a young female hitchhiker in North Carolina. She laughed at him because he propositioned for her for sex. She laughed at him. It angered him. He beat her unconscious, after which he raped her, sodomized her, and tortured her. And then he weighed her body down. He weighted it down. He took her to a swamp and he put her in so that she would drown. In his memoirs, he wrote, "All that I could think about is how I could do anything I wanted to her." So satisfying those feelings began to fuel him. He became skillful at torture, oftentimes keeping his victims alive for days. He would sometimes even cannibalize his victims while they're still alive. Get this, he would eat their severed limbs while they watched. Sometimes he would even force them to join in.
Oh.
Now remember, we called him the meanest man.
Yeah, that's feels light.
Pee-wee seemed to prefer female victims, but he would still victimize men as well. It's estimated that by 1975, he killed 80 young boys and girls along the North Carolina highways. He's said to have killed once every 6 weeks when them bothersome feelings came on. It would seem not even his family was safe from this monster. So in 1970, he gave his niece, Janice Kirby, who was 15 at the time, and her friend Patricia Ann Alsbrook, who was 17, a ride home from a bar. Or he was supposed to be giving them a ride home from the bar, except he didn't take them home. He took them to an abandoned house. And once at this house, he beat and raped and killed both of them. He then drowned them in separate locations. His next, as he calls it, serious murder, because, you know, you got your serious ones and then you got your light ones, apparently, according to Pee-wee. Yeah.
Peanut Jr.
Yeah. As he said, the first of which was his niece and her friend. Then there was 20-year-old Martha Dix. Martha had actually had a crush on Pee-wee and would hang around his part-time job at an auto repair shop. Martha was actually his first African-American victim. In 1973, Pee-wee purchased an old hearse. He even told people that the reason he needed it was to take all of the people he killed to a private cemetery. He said this in a bar. I don't know. So maybe people thought it was like drunken ravings of a lunatic.
No, just bad joke.
Or maybe they were all just so terrified of him that they didn't want to find out. I don't know.
Yes.
So this time, currently, Pee-wee is married and has a child. People around town really thought he was mentally disturbed and they avoided him at all costs. But some people did seem to like him. I mean, obviously, he married with a kid. Somebody was liking him. So one of the people that actually liked him and considered him a friend was 23-year-old Doreen Dempsey, who had a 2-year-old and was 8 months pregnant. Doreen decided that it was time to leave the area, and her dear friend Pee-wee offered her a ride to the bus station. Pee-wee took Doreen to a secluded wooded area. He raped and killed her, and then he sodomized and killed her 2-year-old before burying them together. And this sick, disgusting bastard describes what he did to this 2-year-old. I'm not going to describe it. I'm not going to say what he said about it, but just know it is gut-wrenchingly disgusting. Like, when I was researching this and I read that, I felt like I needed to scrub my body. But it's not, I'm not saying it here.
Nope. Nope.
So in 1975, at this time, Pee-wee's 42 years old and had a 6-year history of killing under his belt. So up until now, he'd actually managed to stay under the radar by working alone. But after murdering 3 people in a van, they had broken down and needed some help. And remember, he would drive up and down the North Carolina highways. They needed some help. So he called in an old ex-con buddy, Walter Neely. Walter drove the van to Pee-wee's garage, and Pee-wee repainted it so that he could sell it, the broken down van of these 3 people. That same year, Suzanne Kipper hired Pee-wee to kill her ex-boyfriend, Silas Barwell Yates, who was a wealthy farmer. She paid Pee-wee $1,500 for the job. So 2 men, John Powell and John Owens, handled all of the correspondence between Suzanne and Pee-wee. Well, a woman named Diane Neely was the bait. She pretended to have car problems, and Silas came outside to try to help her. You know, he's a gentleman. And on February 12th Pee-wee of 1975, Pee-wee kidnapped and murdered Silas as both Johns watched. And then the 3 buried his body. So you know that old saying, 2 can keep a secret if one of them is dead? Mm-hmm. It's even more so true if it's 3. And, well, you know, becomes frighteningly true. So Diane and her ex-boyfriend, ex-con Avery Howard, tried to blackmail Pee-wee for $5,000 in hush money. Diane is the woman who was the bait. Now you know that he used you as bait to kill someone, and you're going to try to use him to blackmail him. I'm not victim blaming here. I'm just saying maybe not the smartest move. I don't.
Somebody could have maybe thought that out a little bit more.
Pee Wee agrees to meet them with the money, and well, you can imagine what happened. He killed him, and he disposed of both of their bodies. Pee Wee was quite a busy man in the killing department, I'm telling you. So around this same time, he killed 13-year-old Kim Kilkins because she refused his sexual advances. 13 years old, married with children, and he's propositioning a 13-year-old. And then because she says no, he kills her. Totally unrelated, but bad for them. Poor unfortunate robbers, Dennis Bellamy and 15-year-old Johnny Knight, picked the wrong shop to rob. They broke into Pee Wee's shop. Pee Wee found out who they were, and, well, he handled both of them, calling in Walter Neely again for help burying the two. Pee Wee obviously trusts Walter because not only calling him in for help, but also showing him the graves of the other people he murdered. So, I mean, that's some serious trust right there.
Yeah, or he was planning on killing him.
Maybe. Yeah, again, two can keep a secret if one of them is dead. So 13-year-old Kim Gilkins' disappearance was investigated, and it seemed that Pee Wee was the prime suspect. Prior to her disappearance, she had told people that he had lured her out to the country on the pretense of taking a vacation, but that he had raped and tortured her instead. Authorities had enough evidence that they were able to secure a search warrant for Pee Wee's apartment, upon which they discovered some of Kim's clothing. Pee Wee was indicted for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. With Pee Wee tucked away in prison or in jail awaiting trial, police began to turn up the heat on Walter Neely. Walter completely crumbles under the pressure, and on December 4th of 1975, he led police to the private cemetery that Pee Wee referenced when he purchased the hearse. Remember when he was drunk in the bar telling everybody, I got this hearse because I take people to this private cemetery.
Yeah.
This is that cemetery. At the site of the cemetery, police uncovered 8 victims. Avery Howard, Johnny Sellers. Johnny, who we hadn't mentioned previously, owed Pee Wee $1,000 for auto parts, but was slow to pay. So I guess Pee Wee was like, screw it.
Yeah.
Jessie Judy, who was Johnny's girlfriend, he killed her hoping to obstruct any investigation into Johnny's death, because if she's not around, she can't report Johnny missing.
Right. And if they're both gone, maybe they just ran off together.
Right. Also, they found the body of Diane Neely, who was the woman that blackmailed him. Doreen, accomplice. Yes. Doreen Dempsey and her baby, along with Johnny Knight and Dennis Bellamy. Those were the unfortunate thieves. On April 27th of 1976, both Walter Neely and Donald Henry Pee Wee Gaskins were charged with 8 counts of murder. Pee Wee attempted to appear innocent, but the jury was like, nah, son, we're not buying it. He later confessed to the other 7 murders to avoid additional death sentences, as his previous death sentence had been commuted to life. Based on changes in the law, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled the death penalty unconstitutional at that time, but we know that that's kind of been flipped again. They've kind of gone back and forth on that. So 7 more life sentences were added to Pee Wee's sentence. In 1978, the death penalty becomes legal again in South Carolina. Like I just said, it's gone back and forth. Pee Wee was unconcerned about the legality of the death sentence until he was found guilty of murdering fellow prisoner Rudolph Tyner, who was on death row for murdering an elderly couple, Bill and Myrtle Moon. So Myrtle's son, Tony Simo, hired Pee Wee to kill Rudolph, which he did on September 2nd of 1982. He did that by rigging a walkie-talkie with explosives. This gives him the nickname, the meanest man in America. So Pee Wee once again receives the death sentence. Pee Wee said the last thing he heard talking about his last victim, fellow prisoner, Rudolph Tyner, he says the last thing he heard was me laughing. This marked the first time in South Carolina history that a white man received a death sentence for the murder of a black man. In order to avoid the electric chair, Pee Wee confessed to more murders, one of which was Peggy Catino, the 13-year-old daughter of then South Carolina State Senator James Catino Jr. of Sumter. His confession was actually rejected because prosecutors were like, no, we don't believe you. We think you're just doing it for the publicity. And a man named William Pierce had already been convicted and sentenced to life in prison for that crime. During his last months of life, Pee Wee worked with author Wilton Earl on the book Final Truth, which was published in 1993. In this book, Pee Wee talks about his murders and his bothersome feelings. He also dictated his memoirs into a tape recorder, becoming quite philosophical about life, murders, and the reason why. On the day of his execution, Pee Wee slashed his wrists in an effort to delay his death. You don't want to die, but you don't mind killing without regard, huh?
Yeah, right.
So his arms were stitched up, a total of 20 stitches, and on September 6th of 1991 at 1:05 a.m., Donald Henry Pee Wee Gaskins was pronounced dead from the electric chair execution. His claims of taking over 100 lives have never been proven. So we talked earlier about how Pee Wee said he was beaten as a child and abused by his mom's many boyfriends, but some actually say that's not true, and that as a child, Pee Wee did receive a lot of love and attention. Regardless of how he grew up, he was quite the animal and the meanest man in America.
I feel like meanest just doesn't even cover it.
Right?
It just sounds like he'd be like, your haircut sucks. You know, I mean,
right. That's mean.
This is
just disgusting. Evil. Yeah. Like the most evil man in America. That seems like a much more fitting title.
Yeah.
But there you go. That is the story of Donald Henry Pee Wee Gaskins. And like when you look at his picture, I don't know what he looked like at the time when he was younger and whatever. The only pictures I've seen are the ones, when he was actually later in life in prison, and he looks like the most evil man in America. I mean,
how'd this guy get married 4 times?
Yeah, seriously. I'm like, he must have been a good looking kid, but as he aged, he did not age well because I don't see it. I don't see it at all.
You spend all that time doing evil stuff, it make you look evil.
Yeah. Yeah, all that bad karma coming back, making you look terrible. Phew. But there you go. That's the story of Donald Henry Gaskins, the meanest man in America. I will tell you, Adam, you'll be proud of me. I did add our doggy t-shirts to the website.
Awesome.
They are very
like them
cute.
Very much.
Yes, they are very cute. There's pictures for reference for the sizes, for each of the sizes. They don't come in very small. I'm sorry. That's not my choice. That's the manufacturer issue. As soon as they are available, I will make sure we have them for very small dogs. But if you have a medium to large dog, they're covered.
Yeah. For the real small ones, you can always just, cut it in half.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Fashion tips with Adam. Oh, is that not fit? Just cut it in half. It'll be fine.
As always, we would really appreciate if you'd head on over to Apple and give us a rating or review. 5 stars would be, pretty primo.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Be the cat's meow.
Those bees' knees. Put the motion in our ocean.
Oh my goodness. Also, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can do that several ways. We've got, you can buy us a coffee. Yes, I do actually use it for coffee. buymeacoffee.com/A-side-B-side-pod. You can always head onto the website. We post all of our sources on there. We post pictures on there. And each month we will also post a cause that you can look into and help out. And All that is A-side B. Oh, wait, what is it, Adam?
It is A-side, B-side podcast.square.site.
Yes.
And that is spelling out the word square.
Yes. Nice.
Yes.
Nice. We have all the socials. We have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. So you can check us out on there. You can also email us, A-side, B-side podcasts at Gmail. So if you've got a story you'd like us to look into, or you've got that guy that you're like, hey, Adam, you need to do something on this guy, you can email us. You can private message us, all those ways. We will respond, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Adam, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. Thanks.
A duck blind on Reelfoot Lake in northwestern Tennessee becomes the unlikely site of a double homicide. Then the suspect's body is discovered floating in the murky waters nearby to the scene of the crime.
Maya Miliete goes missing from Chula Vista after a fight with her husband, leading friends and family to believe he might be involved.
Tune in to Murder News, the Listen Edition, every Friday for the biggest true crime cases making headlines each week.
Subscribe to Murder News, the Listen Edition, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Murder News.
As always, thank you for listening to A-Side, B-Side podcast. If you enjoy the show, please, if you don't mind, head on over to Apple and leave us a rating or a review. And if you'd like to continue to support the podcast, you can do so by heading on over to Patreon, or you can buy us a coffee, as well as buying merch on our website, A-Side, B-Side podcast.square.site. From Adam and I at A-Side, B-Side podcast, please remember to wear your mask, social distance if you're around people that don't live in your household, and just be safe and happy. Thanks again from us here at A-Side, B-Side podcast.